All right, we're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming this evening to our forum about changing Forrest Street's name. Here is our president of our club action of sociology and anthropology, David Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is DJ Davis, and welcome to our forum tonight. We gave an opportunity for everyone in the city to have a word on what the name of the street should be. Because Action really wants to get involved with everything to make it transparent about the naming of the change of Forrest Street. We all know the history, which we'll have more information about that in just a second. So I'm going to introduce you to our panel tonight. Real quick, we have Dr. Michael Noll, professor at Blvd State University, Reverend Forrest, known activist and leader of People's Tribunal. We have G.B.R, Vice President of Action, the Sociology Anthropology Club, a chance to initiate opportunities now. Now I want to give a warm welcome to Councilman Carroll, who came over to support us, and you know the city is staying neutral as well. Thank you so much, Councilman. And also, Councilman Eric Howard. And see, one thing about I've noticed when we're trying to get things done, it's not just brain fart. When we're excited, a little bit nervous. But see, I'm not here for you to think like me. I want you to think. That's the reason we're trying to change the name of the street. So we thank Councilman Eric Howard for his support and all those who could make it tonight. The mayor did send me an email saying that he was at the Boys and Girls, he was with the Boy Scouts troop today. And that's the reason he couldn't make it.
DJ, I got to correct you. That's not Councilman Carroll. That's our city engineer.
That's Pat.
Pat Collins. I mean, I don't want anybody thinking
Pat,
that.
take your mask off.
I don't want anybody thinking that Tim Carroll has lost that amount of weight.
Wow, it's been an interesting day for everyone, and we're going to reverse that. Pat, thank you so much. You've been a great support. And the city engineer office, if y'all did not know, broke the street down for us, separate the street into sections to make it easier for the students to be able to collect the signatures. And they also gave us the needs of what we needed. So the city engineer has, of course, neutral, has been really helping us out in any way to make it easier for the students to be able to change the name of the street so we wouldn't get confused with the city maps, okay? So now we will hear from Reverend Forrest, and then afterward we will hear from Dr. Michael Noll, and then Ms. Kiki Day.
I'll be very brief, and I don't want to take credit for something that was not my idea. Catherine Harris is here, it was her idea. She brought it to the People's Tribunal, and we decided to go with her idea. And I'm president of the tribunal, but she is the one who brought up the idea of renaming Forrest Street after Barack Obama. And let me be clear, I was told by Mark Barber, the city manager, I believe it's the city manager, he said that it was up to the council. And so then we asked the council to do it because in Florida and in California and everywhere but South Georgia, streets have been renamed for Barack Obama. But for some reason, we have a problem with getting that done in South Georgia. Let me just be clear about one thing. That street was named for Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was one of the founders of the Ku Klux Klan, and anybody in Valdosta ought not to want that street named after somebody that was connected with the Ku Klux Klan, the way they did people. So that's my spiel.
All right. Let me just stand up and use my loud voice as I usually do when I teach. I'm Dr. Michael Noll. I'm professor at the VSU, and I've been there for more than 20 years. I'm also a co-founder of the Blvd Coalition for Peace and Justice. You may have seen the board that we have on National Streets, which basically just asks all of us to sit down and talk, to reflect, to think, and to come together as a community. You also probably know that I'm originally from Germany, and that that's been you could say, an eye-opening experience for me within just the last decade, to sort of like look at the remembrance culture in Germany as we're trying to come to terms with our past. And trying to apply that knowledge of learning and grieving and healing and reconciliation also to the situation we must really have here in the southern part of the United States in particular. We have literally Confederate statues that are casting a shadow on our communities. We have street names that are casting a shadow on our communities that basically are different expressions of a I can't breathe, or I can't be free, really. I'm still being, one way or the other, told I'm less than human in a certain sense. 3/5, that's one of these magic numbers, the Dred Scott decision, and all these kinds of things one could talk about. Now, I've done a little bit of research on Forrest Street myself, and basically, as a geographer, I like maps. So I looked at a variety of maps. These are city engineering maps, these are automobile maps, these are sandbar maps. I've also looked at city directories all the way up to the 1920s, and it is clear that the street actually very much in the original time, when the street was created, was actually just spelled with one R. You have a Cypress Street, you have a Magnolia Street, you have a White Oak Street, you have different kinds of streets that are basically named after natural features. Then something is happening at some point in the 1920s where there seems to be a shift. Now, there are three things. I basically wrote a guest column at some point about 2 years ago where basically I said we have a choice we can make as a community. Either either we go back to the original spelling, which is Forrest with one R, which may be less complicated. I'm not trying to undermine the idea of Barack Obama Boulevard. I'm just looking at this practically. We go back to the original spelling, or, and this is the very likely, not very likely at all, is, in 1883, there's the name of Albert Forrest mentioned, was a former slave who was also the founder of the first Antioch Church. But just his name, Albert Forrest, spelled with two R's, is mentioned, but it's not mentioned in connection with any street. And it seems very unlikely that because all the way from basically from the 1880s until the 1920s, the spelling continues with one R. It still actually shows up as late as 1940 in the census form. But at some point in the 20s, things are shifting. You go from one R to two R's. And please do not tell me that at the time when we have basically the Georgia lynching rampage, when Mary Turner is slaughtered, when we have racial tension and lynching at a height in this part of the nation, that somebody had the idea, let's name this or rename this street after a member of a community who happened to be black, a former slave at that time. And then you go into the public library and you find basically a book about the heritage of Nance County where all these important individuals are listed. The vast majority of them, of course, are white, and there certainly is not one person in there that's named Forrest. So Forrest is with two R's, as in Albert Forrest, as in the founder of the first Antioch Baptist Church. So without a doubt in my mind, I'm convinced that the only reason why we have these two R's in there is exactly what the Reverend Rose said at some point in the 20s or 30s, in this environment of basically racial violence, that if we would only understand what that means, we would say we cannot have a name that is basically reflecting on or speaking of the actions of a person that was responsible for so much violence, that is basically the first grand wizard of the KKK. That's not an option. And I cannot imagine to find any street in Germany today that is named after a Nazi. Now, there's clearly a huge difference between the Holocaust and lynching, but it is not that much of a difference if you see what the victims looked like when you ever go to basically the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. You see a few images. If you go to the National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama, if you just take the time to reflect, you can only come to the conclusion that we have some work to do. Because we're not addressing our past. And I'm now a citizen too, this is my past as well. I have to deal with my own past because my grandfather transported people to the concentration camps. I had to learn that in the 70s when I was a teenager when he passed away. It took Germany 3 or 4 decades to truly have the courage to say, yes, we did. And a confession is one of the most important things that you do as a Roman Catholic, for instance, so that your sins can be forgiven, that you can talk about the truth, that you can go to a process of reconciliation. But we are not able, not willing apparently to yet address that history of racial violence. And we must. If we ever want to come together as brothers and sisters, we must. And we will. If there's a will, there's a way. If the city fathers really wanted to change the name, they could do this in an instant. I'm convinced they could. Now, he may be able to get all the signatures to make that happen, but, and I hope that he will get all the signatures to make that happen, that there's no more excuse. But honestly, I would hope that the city council members, and I know you're in a different part of that anyway, you will be supportive of this, but I wish all of them would just simply, let's get on the bus and go to that National Memorial for Peace and Justice together and learn. The first time I walked through a concentration camp with students, as I was leading study abroad programs, that was an eye-opening experience to myself and to my students. You don't talk. You're silent. You understand all of a sudden just what kind of a horror happened. And the thing about it is, I'm sorry if I'm talking so long, I just went to the cemetery today. In the middle of a cemetery, we have an unknown area for the unknown slaves of Valdosta. Hardly anyone knows that we have a memorial in the cemetery. Hardly anyone knows about this. It was built in the 1990s. Mark George was actually part of that, and he was part of the People's Tribunal. You probably know more about it than I do. But it's hidden. Then if you try to find a historical marker of the Mary Turner project on Highway 122, is when you go out west on the highway, the first time I tried to find it, I couldn't see it because it was down in the ditch. Because it wouldn't allow you to put it up to the street so you can see it. It's still going to be vandalized, being shot at like the memorial marker for Emmett Till has been many times on the Mississippi.
Yes.
It clearly tells you that we have work to do. And we can, and we will, and we must. So I'm here to tell you that there are several options, and I'm glad that you're here too. It's like, either way, I'm not saying that we have to go one way or the other. I'm just saying, like, okay, if you want to go back to 1R, the original spelling, let's do that. If you want to name it after Barack Obama or John Lewis or somebody else, let's do it. But leaving like a Gordon Street, which is another chapter, or Forrest Street, connected with basically KKK members, that is simply unacceptable. That is all I can say. And if you want to know more about it, I'll be happy to talk about it, but I think I have had enough. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Noll. Ms. Kiki.
It's definitely tough following a speech like that.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
So, in effort to change the street name, we will be out every Saturday in March from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. going out and collecting the signatures. We are only collecting signatures from people on the street, other people that might want to get it changed. They have to live on the street, and preferably they should be on the water bill for the property, so they don't have to go through all the checking and stuff like that, and they might throw the name out. We don't want anybody's name to get thrown out. And food will be provided for any BSU students that want to join us. Food will be provided, hot dogs, hamburgers, and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kiki. So, this is what's going on, but also what we're trying to get done. This is what I want everybody to fully understand, that there is no way that a name was named after a black man in Valdosta, Georgia in the 20s and 30s.
No.
So we want an opportunity right now to thank Mr. Arnold, Reverend Rose, Dr. Knowles, each member of this partnership, the People's Tribunal, Coalition of Peace and Justice, Action, Sociology, Anthropology Club. We all came together and decided that there is one thing that we're going to do in Valdosta, and it's difficult. It's extremely difficult, and sometimes it's tiresome. But that one thing that we want to do is we want to see change. So, and we're going to get it done. Even if we have to do it ourselves, we will walk. We're going to make sure that we follow the ordinance to the T. And we want to thank again our city engineer, Patrick Collins, for letting us giving us the information that we need to make sure that we're doing it right. And we're gonna add one more thing. If you are on a budding street, that means a street that touches Forrest Street, you are to sign that petition too. So we'll be looking forward for you as well. Now, as we move forward, I definitely want to get Ms. Catherine, if you would like, I would like to give you the floor before I end this press conference. Ms. Catherine, please.
First of all, I'm not a speaker, but I would just like to thank you very, very much. And hopefully we will get the street name. And I thank you all.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let me be clear about something. We did, Catherine and I and several other people walk down Forrest Street. We did everything that we were asked to do, everything that the current charter said do. They changed everything. We got down there, they changed it. So let's be clear about that. They changed it. We didn't change anything. They changed it. They never did ask us for any water bills. They didn't do anything like that. All that just came up recently. If y'all want to do that, fine. I ain't going back down there to do nothing. And I told the city manager that.
Let me actually add one thing, if I may, very briefly. And I wish we would have some of the council members here, like Andy Gibson and Carol for that matter. The one thing you have to realize is that guilt, that knowledge is a heavy burden on, or has been on Germans in terms of the Holocaust, as it is on white folks in terms of the racial violence in this country. Being able to come clean, to find a path to healing, lifts that burden off you. Because, and I know members of the clergy I've talked to locally. We had like this interfaith event about 2 years ago. And after the interfaith event, as I was talking about the idea of having a memorial of some sort here in the center of the community, one of the members, a white individual belonging to the local church, basically confessed to me that his grandfather was a member of the KKK. And I encouraged the individual, so why don't you talk about it? Why don't we learn from it? I don't know why there's that fear that the thing is like, for the first 2 years as I realized who my grandfather also was, because that part I never knew, I didn't know what to do with it. I felt guilty. I had this look with this weight on my shoulders in a certain sense. And if we come clean, if we confess, then we're able to move forward. And that ultimately benefits all of us, because the violators as well as those that are violated basically are traumatized, one way or the other. And I think that's important too, because somehow us white folks are afraid. Us Germans are afraid, if you know what I mean with that. If you speak up, you come clean, you can move forward.
Please.
Sorry.
I'm John Robinson, and I'm an associate pastor of the First Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. And there's no way that back in those days they would have named the street after a black man here in Lowndes County for the dark history this county had. And it's time for change to come into this city. And there's no better place to start than as far as the street over there. Some changes are going to occur. There's going to be some issues raised with the city. There's going to be issues raised with the banks in the city. There's a great racial injustice in Lowndes County. Have been ever since 1860. And it's time now for changes. And it's time for us to preach a different tune from the pulpits and speak the words of truth. It's about economic redemption, and that's a good sign for a change to start coming about here in this city. And I want to commend you and thank you for what you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing. We're going to be fighting from the other end on the legal aspect and from the legal grounds. And we got something that's going to be coming up that I'm going to be calling you and I'm going to be talking to you, because I'm going to need your support in what we're going to be trying to do. I'm also a member of the People Tribune. I represent the black businesses and small businesses of Lowndes County. And I'm also was a victim of discrimination. I was the lead plaintiff in the civil litigation that lasted 12 years down in South Florida. Manuel Noriega was in the basement. I had the Honorable Judge Hobler was my judge, and we fought for 12 years. We lost everything we had. We were stripped of our dignity and our pride, but we survived. And I'm in the Library of Congress I've been studied by Penn State, but I don't ride that ticket. And I come here to Valdosta. I got diagnosed with terminal cancer. I'm a survivor of cancer right now. And the racial discrimination is equally devastating as me sitting on death row with terminal cancer. Thank you.
Wow, I really love that story, and thank you so much for the encouragement. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to go to our Facebook page. It's called Change the Name of Forrest Street. Change the name of Forrest Street. If you support us, and we can go ahead and get all the information out to everyone. This Saturday, we will be on the street, as Ms. Kiki said, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we'll be on the corner of Forrest and Park Avenue. So anyone that can support us, bring us water. It's going to be a little bit hot that day, so we definitely want to keep the students hydrated. If anybody else wants to reach out to us, they can reach out to us at djdavis@valdosta.edu. Again, that is djdavis@valdosta.edu. And on our Facebook page, they can join the Sociology Club at Valdosta State University, Sociology Club of Valdosta University. Then we both have our Twitter and our Instagram, which is Miss Public Relations Chair. What is it called?
It'll be at Action VSU on both Twitter and Instagram.
Action VSU on both Twitter and Instagram. That's Action VSU on both Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Mr. Councilman, would you like a few words before you go?
Yes, I'd just like to say I'm pleased that you having young people be a part of this process. This is what we ask young people to do. Be a part of the process. This is democracy at work. And for you guys to take it upon yourself to spend time doing this, I know it's not easy. It's just part of the process, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you guys for taking your time to do it. And I fully support your efforts. So when time comes, if I'm still in office, you have my full support, just because I like the fact that you guys are going through the process and following the rules and doing it like they say do it. And when it comes there, you have my support.
Thank you, Councilman. City Engineer, Patrick Collins.
I wish everybody the best of luck doing this. I think I've explained everything to DJ. I even gave him a brochure that had every house and what it looks like, a photo of it. And so we're just all about process. And as long as you get one signature from each of those homes, and it's 60%, you guys are good, And then we'll take it for city council, and we'll see if they vote it up or down. But my job is just to facilitate it and make sure that we follow the rules that are there. And I've tried my best to make sure that it's clear. And I think DJ has already validated that this morning. And I just wish you the best of luck. And I'm proud of all the VSU students for going down there and doing this.
Yes, sir. I want to clarify. I got two quick questions real quick so we know everybody. Now, I know you do not have to pay to change your address. Please don't let people tell you you have to pay to get your address. Those in the businesses might have to pay, and then the city engineer, they can reach out to them in the council if you have something to say. Number two, I want to ask Mr. Collins to make sure. I've been told that either the tenant or the property owner can sign the petition. That's on the tenant and the property owner can sign, and no, the property owner cannot override the tenant that's staying there on that street. It does not say that in the law. And make sure that people know, okay, do I have to ask them? No. If you stay in that house, it is your decision to support or not to support the changing of the street. We need 187 signatures, and I'm looking for 212 is my goal. It's 212 signatures to get the city changed. Now also,
DJ,
yes, sir.
And just to be clear, when you go up to the house, you can only get one signature from each house.
Yes, just to make
That's
sure,
very
each
important.
parcel,
Right.
each parcel, whether it's apartment or it's a house, each parcel can only have one signature at the house. That's why we preferably want people that have the water bill in their name, because it's easier access. The city has that information, and it's easier to check out that the names match. Okay?
Let me be clear about something. They need to say what they're gonna do this time, because they changed. And to say they didn't change it, they lied to you, because they told us that we just had to go by the original charter we did, that we walked that street from Martin Luther King Boulevard all the way down to Perimeter. Got all the signatures that were required at that time, and then they just simply changed the rules. So I don't want people thinking that they didn't do it because they did.
Yes, sir, Reverend Rose, and that's a good thing about technology these days. Not only do we have the city engineer here, not only do we have a member of council to verify that everything was taught properly, there's also video evidence in the media to make sure that everything is doing to the process and straight to the point. I don't have any more questions about the street for our city engineer. He's already helped out and did a wonderful job of putting some things together for the students, so we'll be able to be successful in what we're doing. But he stayed neutral. He works for the city. It's his job to make sure the process goes forward. So any of you out there that's ready to support us, we do have a GoFundMe page up. I did not mention it's going to cost about $3,000 to get the street changed after we collect the signatures, which has to be paid for those who are petitioning, because the city doesn't pay for the street signs. I've never heard of that before, but it's in the ordinance, and we want to stay to the ordinance and what the ordinance says about getting the street name changed. So we do have a GoFundMe page up. If you can't actually physically come out and help us, you can reach out to our GoFundMe page inside and change the name of Forrest Street. Change the name of Forrest Street on Facebook, and you'll be able to donate to our GoFundMe page. I thank everyone for the opportunity. And as we spoke, we was going to open the floor to see if people wanted to change the name of 4th Street with something else to Barack Obama. As you've seen, all those here right at this moment, besides our neutral people, are in support of changing the name of the street of Forrest to Barack Obama Boulevard. So, from now on forward, we will be changing the name of Forrest Street to Barack Obama Boulevard, and that's what we are reaching out. That is in agreements with the People's Tribunal, the Coalition of Peace and Justice and Action, the Sociology and Anthropology Club of Valdosta State University. Thank you so much for your time, and y'all have a great evening. Thank you, Red. Always sorry, we'll get this done.
How to do that? You all right? Good.
My granddad, we got every day, John Irish, not John Irish, John
Yep.
Yes, sir. I definitely will. Hey, Pat. That's why I was wondering why you were looking at me crazy. Thank you, sir. Good night, Pat.